Happy New Year to everyone, and especially to Madhuban and Aruna.
Happy New Year, Jayanti Ben, Om Shanti. And Happy New Year to everyone else as well.
So yeah, big warm welcome back, Sister Jayanti. I was noting that the last revision was actually on 10th of June. So it's long awaited. And yeah, I just had a couple of little stories to kind of usher in the new year. And we always remember subtle messages through stories. So this is a story of the empty bowl. A young seeker visited a wise teacher on New Year's Day. The seeker complained, "Master, I've read so many books, practiced meditation, and followed countless paths, but I still feel lost." The master smiled and handed the seeker an empty bowl. "Before you can fill this bowl with water, what must you do?" "Make sure it's empty," the seeker replied. "Exactly," said the master. "Your mind is like this bowl. It's so full of knowledge, plans, and expectations that there's no room for truth. Start this year by emptying your mind. Only then can you truly receive." And then another short story, The New Leaf. In a small forest, an old tree spoke to a sapling. "Every year I let go of my leaves, even though I love them. In their place, new leaves grow and begin again." The sapling asked, "Isn't it hard to let go?" The old tree replied, "It is, but holding on to the old would block the new from arriving." The forest teaches us to trust the cycles of life. So yes, Jayanti,
Very good.
Leave it to you. And then we have special guest today, Sister Manda, and so we will both be with you after you've finished.
Okay. So we've had 2 New Year Murlis, which is extra bonus. We had a New Year Murli from the 31st December 2002 on Sunday. And then yesterday we had another Avyak Murli, again, this time from 2004, 31st December. And so the memories of those times also came back. And of course, seeing the video yesterday, it was so clear that both daddies were there. And of course, Daddy Gulzar was Baba's chariot. But the 2 daddies were there, and it was a very lovely, warm feeling to see them both together. And the next year, Daddy wouldn't have been there because she would have been probably in Bombay. And the following year, a couple of years later, she would have flown away. And so many memories were coming back as I watched the 2 daddies, and the camera kept focusing on them several times. But sweet memories of Madhuban and the times with Bap Dada and the daddies. But of course, Baba sharing a lot of love and reminding us that he's the one who comes from furthest away. And so, yes, whenever we make effort to go to Madhuban, and at that time, people from 48 countries had gone to Madhuban. And so it was a very beautiful gathering. And I think many of you would have recognized yourselves when you were there as youth. Now you're a little bit older, more mature, wiser, older, but you would have recognized many of the people that you are now around, running centers or running countries. But at that time, you were then part of that youth group. And of course, there was that whole group of the Sindhiwalas who were there too again. This time, Baba didn't speak to them. Last time in the Sunday Murli, Baba had spoken to them. But this time they were just there as part of the gathering, but they were quite visible on the 3rd row. And Baba reminding us that however far we travel, the one who travels the furthest away of all is the one above. And that one comes because of our love to meet us and to entertain us. And he brings a special gift, the gift of the golden world. And for me, what Baba was saying is that experience the joy of the future world here and now. When you go to the new world, yes, everyone will be there, happy, comfortable, sweet, and loving, but there won't be any contrast to be able to evaluate things. But today, we see the world of sorrow, the world of suffering. And at that time, when Baba's speaking, I don't remember what the world story was in terms of history, but it must have been something, again, that was not so pleasant, because Baba's talking about people crying out in distress and wanting to have liberation. And this is the current scene that we're seeing in various places. I don't need to mention names. You've seen clips of them on videos, on television. People truly, truly crying out in desperate situations, in distress, wondering whether life is worth living and how long is this tragedy going to continue for. And so, given those circumstances, here is Baba reminding us of our task. We have to be the ones who are merciful. And this time, Baba put these two qualities together, the benefactors and the merciful ones. So I was thinking that mercy, compassion, yes, you want to reach out and help souls who are suffering, but also this idea of benevolence, where I want to be able to help another, uplift another. I want to be able to give them some sort of support so that they can rise above the situation that they're in. God, the benefactor for us, the benevolent one for us, but until they get to the point where they recognize God, we have to be the ones who are, like Baba put sweetly, his right hands, the hands through whom he's able to give them something so that they take some sort of benefit and feel uplifted. And the second quality that Baba wanted us to have, again, the same as the father, the donor, the bestower, constantly giving. Can I be the master donor, the master bestower, constantly being able to give something or another to whoever it is I meet? Baba made it very, very wide, not just to serve one or two or five, but can we serve whoever it is who still remains in the world and hasn't received Baba's message? That's a tall order. And yes, we have media now in a way that we never used to, not even in 2004. In these 20 years, the world of media has opened up a million possibilities. And so for us to see what it is we can do to be able to share Baba's message of peace, of purity, of love, of truth with the whole wide world, so no one gets left behind. And Baba challenged us, just look, whatever programs you've done, the mega programs, the conferences, opening centers, many different things, but how many people have you actually served? And I don't think anybody took out a computer to do a calculation then, and we don't need to do it now. We know anyway. We've served just a small, small percentage of the world's population. If I think about just London, population 14, 15 million, thereabouts, it must be several thousands we've served, but I don't think we've actually served even a million. And that, never mind the rest of the UK, that's just London itself. And so again, whether it's Paris or Barcelona or Madrid, whichever city it is you're in, whichever country you're in, you can see that the percentage of the people we've served is very, very small compared to the population. And so what are we going to do? Baba said we have to speed up our efforts, both in terms of our own inner preparation, and we also have to speed up the quality of the way in which we are sharing Baba's message so that we're able to reach the maximum number. And it's interesting that Baba's message through Sister Mohini, Didi Mohini, also underlined the same thing. 2025 is still a year in which we can do service, but can we do it in such a way that it's unlimited, that Baba's message is able to reach many, many, many more than ever before? And I think that World Meditation Day being announced this year, the time span between the 7th of December when they announced and the 21st of December was quite a short span. And so I know that many countries did pick it up. Here in London, a small group of people got together, and certainly within a couple of days, that video of meditation, etc., had been seen by 8,000 people. I haven't heard the figures after that, but a couple of days later, it was 8,000, and I'm sure the numbers must have increased. So that's not bad within the space of 2 weeks. But next year, well, this year, actually now, this year, we have a lot more time. And I'm sure that because governments have taken on board that meditation is something useful for everyone. With yoga, yes, there was always this restriction of Hatha Yoga, and then we would bring in Raj Yoga. But in some countries, it was very much restricted to Hatha Yoga. But so that was opening the door a little bit. But now the door is wide open. Meditation is accepted by the governments. And so many, many doors have opened so that truly by the end of 2025, December 21st, I think we could have achieved a lot. And so, yes, to make plans for that. But the more important thing, the speed of our own efforts and to what extent we've been able to imbibe those two qualities that Baba spoke of. Firstly, the quality of being the merciful one, and also with that, the benefactor. And secondly, always being able to be the one who gives, the donor, the giver. And so just looking at those two qualities, Baba also asked the question, what is the foundation of all of this? And Baba's answer this time was unlimited disinterest, vairagya. Raga, where there's some sort of thread of connection or attachment or desire, and vairagya, where all those connections and attachments and desires have been resolved, and there is nothing pulling the soul downwards in that way. The old is finished, not just the old leaves, but old sanskars. I'm ready to let go of old habits, old attitudes, old sanskars, and just letting them fall away so that then the new it's already there in the soul. Within the recording of the soul, we have those sanskars of the golden age, the Sato Pradhan sanskars. So it's a question of allowing one to drop away and the other to arise and emerge. And yes, like the stories were shared, you can't do anything about the new until you've done something about the old. So to be able to finish those and become clean and clear so that then those original deity sanskars can emerge once again. And so this idea of being able to have unlimited disinterest. A question to ask myself, I know that today was a holy day, a holiday, and in some countries, maybe tomorrow is also a holiday. And maybe in some countries, like many in the UK, people just allow the holidays to run together so that then they actually start work, not just for a day or two, Thursday and Friday, but they actually start work again on the Monday. So it becomes a good long holiday. That happens whether by consent or just through silence, but many do that. And so the time that I have can I spend that time just looking at what it is I still need to let go of? What is it that I'm still hanging on to? And when I discover what it is, I'll probably be able to remove the blockage very quickly. But it's when I'm not sure, I'm a little bit confused, or I don't have the clarity to be able to see what it is, which is the blockage, that I'm not dealing with it. But time for myself, time, space, and being able to go on that inner journey, and then maybe I'll be able to see. And then this time, Baba spoke about 4 other aspects. And the 4 aspects that Baba said would be the visible signs that, yes, you are making intense effort and fast speed effort. And Baba first spoke about being the instrument. And it's not just sitting on the stage and giving a lecture that I can be an instrument. Baba spoke about being an instrument in many different ways, be an example through my behavior, through my face, through my activity. Further on in the Murli, Baba speaking to the people from Maharashtra who had come to serve. Baba said, your accumulation of charity is through yoga power, but it is also through the pure actions you have performed in a state of yoga, karma yoga. So it's not just that you were busy, but you were in that state of highest consciousness in yoga, and you were doing all the karma that was needed to keep the whole machine of the yajna ticking over, so that 20,000 people could be housed and fed, etc., etc., etc. And so whatever department you were in, whatever was the action you were performing, I would have been for many long hours, not just an hour or 2, but, you know, the 10,000 people taking care of 20,000 people, it's a lot of work. And so Baba said that if you have been doing that service in a highest consciousness of yoga, then that karma yoga is also actually part of your account of charity. And so that stage in which I'm filling myself with the power of purity, I'm filling myself with all the blessings from others so that I'm able to keep a high stage of consciousness. Baba talked about any one of those things. So it's a very wide open opportunity in terms of being an instrument. So many different ways to serve Baba. Mind, body, wealth, thoughts, words, actions, relationships, you know the whole list. And so Baba's point that in this first quality, the quality of being an instrument, and Baba also alluded to the fact that if you're an instrument, then your behavior is going to have an impact on everyone else. So you can't say, well, it doesn't really matter. It's okay if I carry on like this. Everybody's also the same. Well, do I want to be mediocre? Do I want to be just everybody else? Or do I want to be what Baba wants me to be, which is a shining star, which is a diamond? Baba spoke about the double role of the double foreigners, the diamonds and the ones who play the hero part on the world drama stage. So the reminder that instrument consciousness is absolutely one of the visible signs that you're making fast progress and moving ahead. The second, and as I say, all these words in Hindi are very, very similar, nimit and then nirman, humble, humility. And yes, Brahma Baba doing so much, and yet never, ever taking credit for what he had done. Even his interventions in the Murli, he's saying, don't think I'm speaking. Just remember that God is speaking to you, and I'm only the microphone. Baba would never, I'll share a little scene. At one point, after the Murli, Didi Manmoini would go to Baba's room, And sometimes Dadi Janki would follow and we would follow behind her also. And so there'd be a small group, just about 4 or 5, no more than that, in Baba's room when he'd finish the Murli and he'd come into his chamber, the room. And that little chit-chat was called the chamber chat. And Didi Manmohini is teasing Baba and saying, Baba, that was such a beautiful Murli. You did so well. And Baba said, did I? It wasn't me. And then Didi went on further. And she said, but Baba, what did you mean when you said this? And Baba looked at her and said, did I say this? And Baba didn't want to answer the question. And Didi again persisted. And Baba said, I didn't say that. He said it. And then she was wanting to know Baba to elaborate. And so Baba said, okay, next time he comes, you must catch him and ask him. And so Baba really just an instrument, not accepting anything that was beautiful in the Murli or complicated in the Murli. Baba just very, very neutral. I was just the microphone. The one who was speaking was the one above. And so when we do things, we want to be acknowledged. We want people to say, oh, that was very good. Or we want people to know that, yes, I wrote this, I did this, or who did it. All of these things come up. But no, absolutely no desire, no thought of I, neither as an instrument, nor in that stage of total humility, being able to remove the consciousness of I, the ego of I, which Baba said is difficult because it's been there for multiple births. And so now to remove it takes a lot of attention. And then the third, nirman, renewal, creativity, what is constructive, as contrasted with what is destructive. And just this one thought, an intellect that is creative and constructive and is working towards renewal is very different to an intellect that's destructive. And so, am I being destructive towards myself, or am I being compassionate towards myself? Everything starts inside and then comes out there. If I have negative thoughts about myself, if I have destructive thoughts about myself, what am I going to be doing to others around me? And so, very, very important lesson. What is the quality of my intellect? And if I want my intellect to become Sato Pradhan, one of the very first steps is moving away from Tamo Pradhan, from the lowest state, which is destructive. Can I move it with Baba's help, with Baba's grace and blessings, so that it becomes more and more constructive and creative and renewal, engaged in that which is for the better. And so, very interesting word that Baba used there. And you can see the connection of this word humility, nirman and nirman, very, very close. And then Baba added a fourth word, and that was nirvana. Nirvana, the state of silence beyond sound. And so my practice today, to be able to go beyond sound and get to that stage where I'm able to have my mind go into silence very quickly. And of course, Sangam Yuga is the only time that we can actually experience our home. Later on, when it's time to leave bodies and go home, we're there, but we don't feel anything. We don't know anything. It's just total silence, inertia. It's a state in which the soul is inert, not aware. And so now, as I practice being detached from here and journeying home, I can feel the beauty of my home, that land of infinite space, of unlimited purity, of total silence. But that experience and the beauty of that experience, I have to practice today. And the more I practice this, the deeper it's ingrained within me. And so it means that in any given situation, instead of reactivity, I'm going into a state of deep silence. I can journey home, leave the situation here, and in my home, experience Baba's love, Baba's power, Baba's purity. And even if I do that for a moment, when I come back again down to deal with the situation, I'm now far better equipped than I was before. And so I'm actually enhancing my capacity to deal with everything here. The more I practice the bodiless stage and that stage of nirvana, going beyond sound into that space of stillness and silence. And so these are the four qualities by which we can see how far or how close we are to our own karmatit stage. We often have discussions about this, that these four words actually give you a very powerful indicator of how close or not close we are to that stage. And then Baba again was taking up this idea of unlimited disinterest. And so the more I'm in that awareness of unlimited disinterest, the more I can be an instrument to be able to serve in an unlimited capacity. And then Baba took up this point that had come up last week in a lot of detail. And now Baba wasn't taking it up in too much detail, but still reminding us, because that was the message for 2003. And now it's the message for 2005. And so 2 years have gone by, but Baba's firstly a very positive, beautiful comment that Baba's seeing the whole of Diamond Hall full. And so Baba's saying that whatever time, effort, money, energy went into creating this space has been successful, has been worthwhile. Everything that was given for the creation of this is being used in a worthwhile way. So every inch is being used, and in the 20 years past also even more so. But then Baba taking up this whole aspect of safal and safalta. Safal, to use something in a worthwhile way. Safalta, success. And of course, in terms of time, I've used my time in a worthwhile way, I'm more likely to be successful. I'm using my mental energy, my emotional energy in a worthwhile way. Yes, I'm going to be successful. But every thought that I have, can I make sure that it's not a waste of my energy, it's not a waste of my time, but it is pure and elevated? And so that checkpoint again, what is the quality of my thinking? If my thoughts are mediocre, well, my life is mediocre. If my thoughts are pure and elevated, my life is going to be the same. And before we have Gyan, what is the quality of our thoughts then? What was the quality of our life then? And so, yes, maybe a little bit of good within all the time that was wasted and so forth. But now at this moment, every thought based on truth, based on purity, based on Baba's Gyan, and that thought is going to be powerful, elevated, and is going to be worthwhile. It's going to take firm shape in a practical form. And so can I be checking this? What is the quality of my thinking? How am I using my time? Relationships. Am I using my time in relationships in a worthwhile way? I spend time with somebody, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Has it brought me closer to Baba? Has it brought them closer to Baba? Or has it taken me and them in another direction? And so everything that we do, it can be worthwhile and carry me forward. Everything that I do, if I'm not aware, if I'm not conscious, is going to take me in the opposite direction. So Baba making us aware once more of using all the assets that we have, all the powers that Baba's given us, all the virtues that Baba's given us, everything in a worthwhile way. And of course, I've mentioned already Baba speaking to Maharashtra and talking about how the karma yoga you do, that also is accumulated in your treasure store of charity, so that that also is added to your income. So it's not just giving lectures, not just giving a message or conducting classes, but definitely it's your life, it's your actions, it's the way in which you do things. So, and Baba talking to the double foreigners, and again, appreciating how they've come from a distance, of course, but also that they're the ones who are making that effort, both for service as well as to carry their own transformation forward and focusing on that dual aspect. So powerful, Murli, beautiful to see all the faces that were being shown on the screen. And of course, right at the very end, the lighting of the candles for the new year. And you could see that days gone by when it was Baba, it was a beautiful scene. But again, yesterday, it was another lovely scene, seeing everyone. And of course, we've heard the news that Karuna Bhai is not so well. He became unwell in Abu, then was in the trauma center for a couple of days, and now in Ahmedabad. And I haven't heard news today, but my hope is that everybody's loving good wishes have reached him and he's getting better. Very, very much a pillar of the yajna at the moment. Of course, when there's many dadis, many dadas, everyone continues to play their role. But now that the dadis have all flown away, the dadas are also disappearing. The ones we have left are very, very precious, and so we need them. We need to keep them.
Thank you, Sister Jayanti. Always a pleasure to hear you. And I just want to say that those on YouTube, if you'd like to shift to Zoom, you can. The capacity has been expanded. So over to Sister Manda.
Thank you. Thank you, Jayanti Ben. Yeah, it's amazing how you relate every aspect of the Murli so fluently. So thank you for that. So I wanted to ask you, if you didn't have to censor, you know, the whole of the Brahmin family, if you didn't have to censor anything, could you truly and accurately describe someone who leads a life of disinterest?
I saw Dadi Janki do that, and generally most of the daddies, and then it was those around them who sometimes were concerned about extra comfort and this and that. But the daddies themselves, and with Dadi Janki, even with everybody else around her, she really stuck to her principles of simplicity in so many different ways. The way she dressed, the way she lived, the way she kept her room, all of these things. So it was truly a life of disinterest. And Brahma Baba, Mama, these two souls definitely. Didi Manmoini, again, very much a life of simplicity in which, I mean, she came from a multimillionaire family, but everything was given up at a stroke. And then the total simplicity of lifestyle that she adopted. and no turning back on any level whatsoever. So yes, I have seen these souls. Jagdish Pai. Jagdish Pai again, very basic, very, very simple.
So are there things that, in a sense, we might have a simple life, but what about this mental disinterest? You know, we hear the story about Mama where she's driving past something and she sees neon lights and the brothers are asking her to have a look and she says, no, I don't need to see anything. So one is the lifestyle aspect, but the other is the mental thinking and perceiving and perhaps taking in information. What about that aspect of things? Can you, well, as I say, really knowing the Brahmin family and where we're at, where do you think we're at in terms of that? Because I also remember that Iguzar saying to me once, I asked her the question and I said to her, when Baba talks about disinterest of the people of the world, what does that mean? And her answer was very simple. She said, when the Brahmin family has disinterest, the people of the world will have disinterest.
Baba really puts the responsibility on us in terms of what's going on in the world out there, that we have to reach the stage of mukti, then the doors of mukti will open, etc. Dadi Janki never touched a newspaper or a magazine unless it was the magazines of Gyan Amrit, the Nectar of Knowledge, World Renewal. She just did not even touch anything. So definitely she made sure that she kept this space in here very clear, very clean, without any other influences coming in. The other daddies, Dadi Kumarka in the afternoon would read the Hindi newspaper and she'd be interested. And of course, the last few years she didn't, but she was interested in what was happening even in Rajasthan, never mind the rest of the world, because it impacted so much on the decisions that were being made in terms of service and Baba's work in Rajasthan. Dadi Janki really kept herself away from any of those influences. So again, I've seen that with Dadi, yes, she didn't allow anything to influence her from outside in that way. So for us today, I was asked about how should we balance our time in terms of having information from the world out there and also just focusing on our own spiritual development and growth. And my answer was that you don't need to spend a long time understanding what's going on in the world out there. You could spend the whole of Sunday morning reading the Sunday papers. I know my father used to do that when I was young. He'd get a stack of papers and from the morning through till lunchtime, he'd be going through all the papers, all the different ones, getting the different perspective. But we don't need to be doing that. And he also stopped actually once he became a yogi. But you can just catch the news 3 minutes, whether it's on the radio or whether it's on your iPad, whatever it is, your computer, and just catch the summary. You don't need to spend a long time filling your head with all that stuff. So does that answer your question?
Yes, but the other thing that does come to my mind is that, but they were the daddies. And so they were in a league of their own. So could we possibly compare ourselves with them? Do we think that we would be in that league, or is there some other league, or is there permission for something else?
Well, I know that there's the 8. So what you're saying about another league is very important. Yeah, that's also true. But there is the next league, which is the 108, the souls who have had victory. So yes, you've gone through ups and downs and whatever it is that comes up in terms of sanskars, but you've come to the point where you do have victory. And so I think we can all aspire to that, the 108. Not all of us will be in the 108. Our numbers are much bigger now. But I think we can aspire to that. That can be the role model that, yes, it's possible for us to move forward and achieve that state of victory. Yeah.
Sister Jayanti, is somebody there to help you? Because we're just going to mute everyone and then you will have to be unmuted again. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, that's fine.
Srimad, can you send an unmute message to Jayanti Ben? So while, you're getting that message, so maybe we move on to, so actually we were discussing, plus I've got a question in, because Baba added this new point about being nirvana, and you did touch upon it. And this person was saying perhaps nirvana should come first instead of last. And also I was hearing Sister Mohini saying that one thing is to be quiet, but then it has to be a happy face quiet, because sometimes when people become silent, they become serious and almost kind of unapproachable. So could you just elaborate a bit more on what it means, and especially in action?
I'm thinking about how becoming an instrument on any level for anything brings you special blessings that help you move forward. And so for me, the sequence that Baba has mentioned is actually very, very accurate. Not surprising, it's Baba who said it. So first step is, yes, can I be an instrument? Second step is, can I maintain my humility whilst being an instrument and really keep that in my consciousness? And then, yes, can I always make sure that my thoughts, my feelings, my memories, my intellect are all moving in a very positive, creative, constructive way? And if I've given attention to all of these things, then I can come to that stage where the mind, the intellect can be very, very quiet and calm. So it is actually the final stage, not the first stage. It will be impossible to start there. You just wouldn't be able to manage it. But to move everything in a positive direction, a constructive direction, and then say, okay, now I can go into silence, that's a very natural step to take. And so, A, I think it is the right sequence, and B, we're all used to practicing traffic control. And so every hour for a minute, 2 minutes, we practice just going into silence. But to what extent have I developed my practice to such an extent that it doesn't take me 2 minutes to go into silence, but the music comes on or the bleep comes on the computer, whatever it is you have, immediately I can go inside and go upwards and experience that stage in which I'm detached from the body and I'm in that experience of being with Baba in Paramdham, in that land of nirvana. And I think I have to develop that now, because through the coming years, especially 2025, 26, we're going to be hearing things and seeing things that are quite horrendous. Again, today, I didn't look at it any further, but I just saw the headline that again, in yet another city, there's been somebody who's driven their vehicle into the crowd. Now, cars are amazing. Yes, I know that it's fossil fuel and all of that, but imagine how much service we've been able to do because we have a car, or how much easier it's been able to do service. And yet, even something which is as innocent as that, in a sense, becomes an instrument for destruction because the intellect is focused on destructive things. And so at such a time, where we see destruction happening in such a big way all around us, for me to develop my inner capacity, go into silence, and then come back with that inner power and deal with my situation is going to be more and more helpful for me. I'll know what to do, I'll know how to do it, I'll know which way to turn. And so going into silence, being with Baba, feeling Baba's love and purity and power, and then coming down, I'll be able to understand what I need to do, because I would have picked up that signal from Baba.
So, gentlemen, clearly what is needed right now is for us to really think about what the world needs from us now. And I don't mean us collectively, it's one thing, but each one individually has to think that I have to build my self, I have to build my stage. So what do you think is the difference between benevolence and bestower? Is there a difference, or is one leading to another?
Because Baba used these 3 words and 2 words he put together, compassion, and with that being the benefactor, and then the bestower. So benefactor, benevolence, I'm putting together there. And I think that to me it was saying that when there's mercy, then the way it manifests is that I want to help uplift somebody. So being a benefactor is that stage, benevolent, where I want somebody to move forward, and I'm willing to give my time, my energy, my support, my cooperation to help in that. Bestower, the donor, it can be giving anything, everything, whatever it is that's needed at that time. But this idea of actual upliftment, this is what comes into this word kalyankari, the one who's able to be the benefactor, the benevolent one.
Thanks, Jayanti. Yeah. So somebody was asking, out of all the things that Baba has said, because there's so much to practice in such a short time, what would you give importance to? What's the one thing out of this Murli, if we were to say, okay, this one thing, what do you think, or what do you feel would, from that little effort, give us more success?
I think this practice of being bodiless, it's been coming up in the Sakar Murlis a lot. It's been coming up in many of the Avyakt Murlis recently. So it seems to be the one thing that Baba's underlining for us again and again. To be able to be detached from my skin, become totally silent, and be with Baba.
Could I ask you a question about the message that you made a reference to from through Sister Moyini? As I heard the message, I kind of feel that all the things that we already know of, in a sense. What is it that Baba is seeing? I'm trying to understand. Is there a focus that Baba is asking us to make, whether it's in terms of sustenance of the self or whether it's in terms of service? Is there something different? Are we doing something and Baba is wanting us to do something else? Because all the things in the message were very much things that we're aware of, right?
I felt as if Baba was putting it into a package for us. Many different things that we need to give attention to. And so it was a nice, tidy little package. And the thing that struck me most deeply was where Baba's talking about the Maryadas, the principles, and also the Srimad. And I felt in those 3 words, Baba was emphasizing that this is going to be the way to keep yourself safe and also allow others to experience the fortress of protection and safety. And so I felt that that was, the first part was the 4 different subjects, be the pillar of all of that. And then this middle part was the Maryada, the code of conduct, the Niyam, the principles that we have to live with, and then the Srimad, the specific directions that come from Baba. And so I felt that this was the one big thing, the chunk that Baba was saying we need to focus on. And then, of course, yes, Baba, again, making sure that we understood that within the short time that remains, Baba's message has to reach across the world. Don't be limited in your thinking, but be unlimited so that then you find ways to get that message out to everyone. A simple message, be soul conscious and remember God. That really is the essential message to put out to everyone.
So I just want to ask you this aspect of following the Maryadas and all of that. Do you feel that we as a family at this point in time generally should be paying attention to something specific that we are not paying attention to? Or is there something that we're becoming slack in or are slack in and that we need to really tighten up a little bit in?
I think 2 things in particular come to mind, and that is Baba's been reminding us on the focus of the Murli, the study. That's been coming up in the Sakar Murlis every single day for the last few weeks, but also it's been coming up again in the message and in the way that it was put that this is the main sustenance for the Brahmin family, for myself and for others. And I think we get a little bit blasé about the Murlis because many of us, just looking at the screen, many of us have been with Baba for decades. And so we would have heard these Murlis 4 times round, 8 times round, maybe even 10 times round. And so I think that we no longer feel that intoxication from the Murli, and maybe we're a little bit slack in that attention that it's actually God who is speaking the Murli to me for my spiritual progress and development. So one aspect was, again, refining my appreciation of the Murli and recognizing the value of the Murli. And the second is where maybe we've got into a comfort zone with our own weaknesses. And Baba's been referring to this a lot again about carelessness and laziness, where I feel that, I'm doing okay, it's all right. And by the end, I'll get there, I'll be perfect. And Baba's saying, no, this is the time that you have to make the determined effort to become complete and perfect. Because as time goes on, when things are going crazy and there's chaos all around, it's not going to be time for practice or for rehearsal. The rehearsal is today. And so can I practice the things that Baba's wanting me to do so that then it becomes ingrained within me as part of my nature. And so my automatic response is based on that gyan, that understanding, and not a second thought that, oh, well, maybe not like this. But my immediate thought should be, what does Baba want? And I should be able to be aware of that and apply it immediately. So I do think that it's because Baba's been reminding us that he's seeing a bit of carelessness and laziness in everything we do. And so I'm grateful that this message has come to remind us that these are the important things.
Do you think this aspect of lifestyle, food, the food that we eat, how much it's prepared in Baba's remembrance, and all that aspect is part of that? Do you think we're becoming a bit slack in that, 30, 40, 40, 45 years in Gyan?
I agree. And I'm just thinking about Christmas and all the goodies that everybody everywhere prepares. and how we get a little bit lost in that sometimes. A lot of time, energy, preparation, all of that has been taken up in the last few weeks everywhere, I'm sure. And so maybe now, after all the feasting, it's time for a little bit of simplicity, and if not fasting, then at least simplifying things so that then we get back to basics and don't have to give so much time and attention and energy. So it's not so much the question of who's preparing the food. I think that whole system of elaborate meals, we have to really look at that and try and simplify that in our lives, both in terms of less waste of thoughts and time and energy, but also in terms of the need for the world. I'm very aware that, in London, we have people who are going to food banks who normally would be considered middle class. They should have enough, but they don't have enough. So they're lining up to pick up packages of food. Now, the world is getting to a point where things are going to get worse. They're definitely going to get worse in terms of food prices. And Baba's children are safe and protected, and we get looked after so well. But yet still, from our own side, we need to be aware of how to simplify our lifestyle, especially in terms of food.
Thank you.
I think Sister Manda also meant people becoming careless and then eating out and not being so steadfast in that.
Mm.
Yes, I've heard stories
so
about
many
that too.
foods, and then you say, well, I'm still a BK. Oh, so what if I ate that sandwich, that soup? I'm still a BK. It doesn't affect me. We kind of become a bit, as you said, blasé in that sense.
Yeah. So definitely, yes, Baba, making us realize that that's absolutely vital. If I want to keep my intellect clean and clear, it has to be attention on diet and the preparation of food, who, what, where, all of these things.
Thank you.
Yeah, gentlemen, it feels like to me that, 60, 70 years ago, there were not many signs of the end, and yet their efforts were so intense. And now there's so many signs of the end, and we are just like so careless. Okay, just one final question, because it came up in the Murli today and somebody's asked it. So basically, Baba said you can use a computer to get information. So what is your take on artificial intelligence? Should we be using it? Should we not? You might say, yes, it's good, but keep it within check. But I feel there's some cheating in that, because now I refer to ChatGPT and then I feel, well, I should be making the effort. I should be using my intellect. So
it does seem to be lazy way out. Press a few buttons and get AI to write a whole script for you. And there you go. You don't need to churn. You don't need to research it yourself. It's all there ready-made. The time and energy that I give to churning and understanding things deeply for myself is my treasure. And whatever AI is doing, it's nobody's treasure. It's machines doing their work. And so I know that there's a big difference in just making myself go through the process of churning and exploring rather than pressing a few buttons. But I do know that more and more we get waylaid, distracted by AI. And I know various people who use AI to get answers for all the questions they have for a particular class.
I'm sure there's lots of questions we still have, Jayanti-Ben.
Yeah, so we do have good news for you. The good news is that Sister Jayanti will be with us again next Wednesday. So that's Wednesday, 8th of January, 4 p.m. again. So I'm sorry we've not been able to take questions from the Zoom chat, but come back and next week there'll be a chance. And Sister Jayanti, thank you so much. There's so many people online taking so much benefit. So you get so many blessings.
And blessings to the ones who organized it all. Thank you.
So let's have lovely meditation, lovely drishti from Sister Jayanti, and Happy New Year once again.
Sing to me, goddess, sing to me songs from the earth and the sky and the sea, stories and tales from your life so long. Teach me the songs that will keep me strong. All over the earth you are giving birth. All life is quickening, spring is awakening, wrapped in your arms with such tenderness, bathed in the love of your sweet caress. You are the goddess that gives us all things, birds in the sky flying on the wing, flowers that bloom and trees that grow tall. You are the goddess that blesses us all. Lie-da-di-di-di-di-di-di-di, lie-da-di-di-di-di-di-di-di, lie-da-di-di-di-di-di-di, lie-da-di-di-di-di-di-di. Sing to me, goddess, sing to me songs from the earth and the sky and the sea, stories and tales from your life so long. Teach me the songs that will keep me strong. All over the earth you are giving birth. All life is quickening, spirit awakening, dancing in the moonlight or laughing in the sun, bathed in the bliss of your holy love. Lie-da-di-di-di-di-di-di, lie-da-di-di-di-di-di-di-di, lie-da-di-di-di-di-di-di.
Om Shanti.